YouTube, what the crap's going on? Welcome to Total War Warhammer. I am HeirofCarthage, obviously. If you're watching this, you probably already knew that, but in case you're new to the channel. So yes, what are we looking at here? We're looking at Total War Warhammer, and this is going to be a brief review and overview all in one video. Not typically my thing to be doing video game reviews per se. I usually just give people my thoughts, but kind of figured that it would be fair to go ahead and review this game. So you're seeing in-game footage that was captured off my PC. So my specs real quick for those who are not familiar with it, just so you know how would this compare to what you're running. My graphics card is an NVIDIA EVGA GTX 970, so I'm not running top-of-the-line equipment. I will be soon, and I'll explain more about that in another video. But yes, GTX 970. I am running the game on high on these graphics. There is one setting higher, which is Ultra. Now my 970 can run the game on Ultra, and it does a pretty darn good job of it. There are some of the larger battles, though, where the frame rates dip lower than I like for recording. I like to have 60 frames a second when I'm recording, and so I demand 60 frames a second when I play my game. If you don't care about having it at 40, 45 frames a second on Ultra, a GTX 970 will most likely max this game out. It runs incredibly smooth because of the 64-bit and DX12 that they've built in. So really, in my opinion, the game runs a lot better than Total War Rome 2 or even Total War Attila, which was very cumbersome on my PC before that. So in terms of how the game runs very smooth. So my processor, I mean, I don't think it's as big a deal, but I'm running an i7 4770K. Any of the newer age i5s or other stuff that have pretty much the same clock speed as what I'm doing, you should have similar results. Really, the graphics card, I think, is going to be the big player here. I do run 16 gigs of RAM. Again, I think the biggest player here is going to be the graphics card. And as you can see, again, runs quite nice. I just have some footage playing in the background with some of the in-game sounds and everything that kind of set the mood. Let's start talking about the basics. So I've already mentioned it. The game looks good. Is it perfect? No. I've noticed that there's a few weird glitches with the lighting in, like, say, subterranean battles, or sometimes when you're like really close to a settlement that's close to a mountain, stuff like that. Very small things. A few texture issues here and there on the game, but overall the game looks very good. And like I said, again, remember that you're not looking at the top graphics here, but it still looks very good in my opinion. The game runs very smooth. I've been playing it for almost 30 hours of gameplay because Creative Assembly got it to me quite early, and I have not had a single crash, so the game is very stable. So we're talking about hours and hours on end of gameplay. Did not experience any crashes on my machine. That was also very good to see. So game running very smooth, game running very stable. Graphics, again, solid rating on this. Now in terms of sounds, you can hear the sounds in the background. The sounds and the music I really like. The sounds are epic. You know, when you have these big epic clashes, you hear all the sounds, the creatures roaring and the steel clashing and the just spells and the lightning whirring and all the stuff. You hear lots of epic sounds when you play the game. Again, I think it's very well done, very immersive in terms of sound. Now let's start talking campaign a little bit here. So what do you get in the campaign? When you buy the base game, you get 4 factions. You're looking at Empire. You can choose between Emperor Karl Franz and Balthazar Gelt. These are your legendary lords. So in a campaign, you pick a faction and then your legendary lord. The Empire has a normal starting position in terms of difficulty and is a nice, well-balanced faction. The Dwarves have an interesting feel to them. They have grudges. You have to carry out these grudges. They have the big book, and you keep them. And if you don't pay back those grudges, you start to lose public confidence. You get Thorgrim Grudgebearer and Ungrim Iron Fist as your options for the Dwarves. Defensive playstyle, very fun faction with a easy start position. Greenskins have the hardest start position. They have to be fighting all the time in order to keep them happy, so you're going to have a very aggressive play style with them, kind of the opposite of the Dwarves. You get Grimgor Ironhide to start with, and also Azog the Slaughterer, who's more of a wizard. Grimgor is a beast in melee, and I mean a beast. Very difficult to deal with. Vampire counts. You get your choice here. Obviously, vampire counts are a very rushy faction. No missile units. Very quick into battle. If you like aggression and you don't necessarily want to be the Greenskins, these guys are a good second. They have a normal start difficulty as well. You can choose between von Karstein and Heinrich Kemmler, who's a necromancer. very interesting. Each faction kind of has access to its own abilities and magics and stuff like that. I don't have time to get into all of it. Each faction also has this. This is the Empires. It's a nice little demo that introduces you to your faction in a battle that kind of sets the story for how your campaign begins. Each faction has a unique video when you start the campaign, so very polished in that respect. And then again, these battles are a nice way to introduce you to your faction and your leader and what it is that they do best. All this is very well done, and in my opinion creates a nice feel for those who are veteran Total War players, and for those people who just like Warhammer, who are stepping into Total War to play this. This kind of gets you used to Total War in a nice, fun way. So no matter which faction you pick, you get a nice little introduction here into what that faction's like on the battlefield, and then it pops out to the campaign map, and your advisor gives you like tons of advice for the first many turns of campaign, and will continue to give you advice until you run into stuff for the first time. So really lots of good advice for new players, and it really should help you get started in the game, because there is a lot of depth to this game. Compared to past Total Wars, there are going to be some things that are simpler and some things that are more complex. So when it comes to the campaign map and buildings, they're going to be simpler. Buildings are going to be quite simple and straightforward in what they do, and each faction is going to have a different but pretty understandable way to make money and be successful, so that they all feel different. What is going to be more in depth is going to be character development and skill trees and technology. All those are going to be more complex than what you're used to in past Total Wars. At least I feel like they are much more complex. You're going to feel a lot more connection to your characters, because you get to individually choose what kind of upgrades they get and which skill trees you want to run down first. So you can customize that character to your playstyle or to whatever it is you feel like you want, whether it's your playstyle or you just want to try something different. So in terms of replayability, you might play Empire's Karl Franz and make him really good at melee really fast, and you might play him again in another one and make him a good leader really fast. Now, eventually, you can level them up and do all kinds of stuff. This is a dwarf campaign map you're looking at here. I've about 138 turns into this campaign, just kind of showing you what I was able to accomplish. Let's talk through the user interface you're going to see here. This is your objectives. You can come in here, and it's pretty straightforward. It tells you what you need to do to succeed. This is pretty similar to past Total War. Here's the technology tree. Now, keep in mind, I'm only showing you dwarves. This looks different for every faction, which is also very nice, but pretty in-depth, as you can see. Treasury, just your basic stuff, showing you all your finances, trade, any details that you need to see. So, nice way to be able to see things at a glance. Here's your faction. You get your summary, your records, and your statistics. You can see the different summary items for your faction all around here. Diplomacy, faction effects, and so on. Your records will keep track of all the different things that went on during your campaign, in case you ever want to look back and remember those epic moments or share with friends or something else like that. And then your statistics, you can go through and look and see how well you've been doing or how poorly you've been doing, one of the two. So lots of nice screens in here. So really, overall, I've played, again, about 25 hours of campaign. Mostly dwarves. I did start up a campaign with every faction, didn't play a ton into them. I had a lot of fun, and interestingly enough, normal difficulty was actually pretty challenging for me from time to time, and it's mainly because the legendary lords can be so tough in battle. This is the diplomacy screen, by the way, that I'm showing you in the background. Similar to past Total Wars. No complaints here. Felt like this was a solid diplomacy screen. But yeah, anyway, it's interesting playing the campaign. Again, I just played on normal with the dwarves, who were supposed to have the easiest starting position, so I expected an absolute steamroll. And there were times when I was steamrolling, and there were times when I was on my heels trying to catch up. Yes, I'm new to the game, so that's probably part of it. Here's your book of grudges, by the way, so you can see all the grudges that I had to slash through. One other glitch I did run into was one of the grudges got stuck whenever a faction went extinct. Now, let's talk multiplayer a little bit. I'm going fast here, but I don't have any other choice. So, what multiplayer? What do you think? Or what do I think? So, I'm not going to lie, multiplayer in this game is pretty bare bones. You get a leaderboard, as you can see here. There was a quick battle option as well, and there's places where you can host your own battle. But in terms of, say, comparison against, say, like a Shogun 2, it is very bare bones. It's more comparable to Total War Attila and Total War Rome 2. Now, there's some things about it that I like better than those, and there's some things that I think that unfortunately should have been here that are not. So I'm going to jump into where I can host a battle just to kind of show you the different things available to you. So if you were to host an online battle, here's what your options are. There are 4 different battle types to choose from, and I'll show you those in a moment, but you have 6 different races if you get the Chaos Warriors DLC, which can If you order in the first week, you'll get that for free. You can add players or AI up here as normal. And then in terms of your options, you have land, siege, ambush, and subterranean. There's a pretty fair number of maps for each type, with the fewest being an ambush, as you can see here. But there's quite a few maps for all the other types. And there's a ton of maps when it comes to siege and land battles, so you have a lot of options. Limited number of factions. However, each faction does have like different leaders, and those leaders possess different abilities, and there's definitely a lot of room for combinations and tactical depth and stuff like that. In terms of balancing, I haven't played the game enough to know how the balancing is going to work out. I've only gotten to play about 5 or 6 battles with other people who were able to get the game early. Now, one thing that really disappoints me, you'll notice there is no season, no time of day, and no way to decide which side of the map you're going to start on. A lot of the maps are pretty good. They look good. Most of them are unbalanced, but fun maps. And they're not going to be quite as well designed for multiplayer, again, as, say, like a Shogun 2 map, but I really think they feel better than what we had in Total War Attila and Rome 2. Your leaders sometimes have different mounts, and I'm showing you that there, where you could pick different mounts for Karl Franz or your general or whatever unit it is, and so that's kind of what I'm showing you down there. So that's an interesting thing. You can pick your leader, and you can also customize that leader. In terms of upgrades, really all you have available to you is just experience upgrades, and the cost of those experience upgrades is not a blanket like it was in Total War Attila. It depends on the original cost of the unit in terms of what the upgrade costs per unit. So the more expensive a unit is, the more that upgrade costs. So what's my overall verdict on the game? I want to rate things separately. I want to rate the campaign separate of multiplayer, and then I'll give you what I feel like is a fair overall rating as well. So in terms of campaign, again, I've played about 25 hours of campaign, and it is very enjoyable. I had a lot of fun with it. I initially mostly played the Dwarves. It was fun. They were unique. They had this grudge system. You had to settle those grudges to keep your populace from getting mad. It was fun to upgrade with the Dwarves and to watch them fight defensively in epic formations. They had awesome thunderers. The campaign map was cool. There was lots of different enemy tribes and clans around me from the Greenskins that constantly made the game challenging, and it was just a lot of fun in that respect. And again, this was even on the normal difficulty, so I feel like this game, unless there's something big I'm missing, is actually going to be very difficult on the higher settings. Now, what is one of the things there that makes this more difficult? Well, the fact that there's legendary lords and magic on the battlefield means that even a normal AI is going to pose a challenge to you. The AI has struggled in Total Wars because it's hard to program an AI that's going to behave exactly like a human, or one that's not just going to raffle stomp you because it's absolutely perfect and micromanages against you every move very well. So whenever you look at what makes this game challenging, when you say you're playing an early campaign as the Dwarves and you got Grimgor Ironhide, for instance, and he rolls up on you, the guy doesn't die in a few hits. So even if the AI makes some pretty bad deployment moves with its troops and you start surrounding them, you're still going to have Grimgor Ironhide wailing away at your army. And he's got like 5,000 something health and a bunch of armor, and he's really good against your own lords. And it makes the battles challenging because you have to deal with people like Grimgor. Every army is led by a lord. Not necessarily every army by a legendary lord, but it makes the campaign, again, on the battle piece, much more challenging to me. I saw nice armies from the Greenskins. They were varied. I didn't fight the same army every time. The Greenskins raided. They also attacked. Sometimes they would defend. I saw varied, I guess, behavior. And the Greenskins were pretty aggressive, too. They didn't just sit back. It wasn't too often that I was seeing armies just flee what they should be defending. So overall verdict on the campaign, I'm going to give the campaign a 9 out of 10. Very solid experience. Very well put together. Very enjoyable. Multiplayer. So let's talk about that real quick. Multiplayer is bare bones. Could they add more to it? Sure. And I don't think it would be that hard. I think the key things that are missing is add back in those options, number one, where you can do the season, the time of day, and which area of the map you're going to start on. All those things need to go back in right away, and that'll help make that experience better. The maps are good, but I think that unfortunately here, in order to make the multiplayer more replayable, there should have been some more options. Something more like Shogun 2 should have been thrown in here, especially with a game like Warhammer that kind of has these elements of RPG to it. Throw some stuff in here. Let us see some RPG type elements, you know, like that, like the old oh crap, the Avatar multiplayer system that we saw in Shogun 2. When you play as the Greenskins, unlock things, you know, level up your legendary lord, make them more fun, be able to rename units and stuff like that, and just add some of that fun back into multiplayer. I know that it requires more work and stuff like that, and the multiplayer experience you have is going to be fun. I've played, like I said, probably 5 or 6 multiplayer battles against other YouTubers, and I'll even be showing you those. They're a lot of fun. But I feel the replayability level is going to be lower because we're missing a lot of those elements that draw players back. Well, what draws a player back? I really want to unlock that next thing. I want to be able to customize that. I like seeing the way, you know, that I have customized show up in battle. That was something in Shogun 2 that I had mixed feelings about initially, but honestly is a lot better, and it keeps the replayability good. So for this reason, I'm going to rate the multiplayer. I'm going to be nice, and I'm going to put it at 7 out of 10. Honestly, probably deserves more like a 6 out of 10 just because it's fairly bare bones. As far as the overall game, though, I would easily rate this game between an 8.5 to a 9 out of 10 overall. I'm not going to let the multiplayer drag down the overall rating that much because the single-player experience in this game is very good. It's going to have quite a bit of hours available to you. I mean, there's 4 right now, just right off the bat, 5 races if you count the DLC. Each one of them has 2 legendary lords to start with. We know that there could be more legendary lords soon. There's quest battles, there's character leveling up, there's customization, you can rename stuff, there's mod support. All these things are going to be there, so overall, definitely giving the game a solid 8.5 to 9 out of 10. I would probably like to go ahead and lean towards that 9 out of 10 if Creative Assembly is able to address some of the basic things, just the lighting issues, and I'm sure there'll be a couple other bugs that get found like they do in just about any game release. But overall, very solid release in my opinion from the Creative Assembly. This game is definitely worth it. If you're a Total War fan, I would highly recommend it, and I'm going to enjoy the crap out of it. If you are skeptical, feel free to stick around and watch a little bit more, as I will be playing campaigns and multiplayer. And you feel free to ask me any questions you have down in the comments, and I will do my best to answer them. Overall, though, great launch. Very excited about this. Very happy to be playing the next Total War. And welcome all to Total War Warhammer.